I was that ambitious that I was like, my goal was to be a speaker on stage, not to try and like make lots of money, you know, where most people go like, well, I'm undervalued, or I'm like, man, fuck the value, fuck the money. If I've got a goal and I'm like passionate and I'm excited about something, like I'm going to move heaven and earth to make it happen.
Well, guys, I'm so excited to bring on, I believe we are friends now, an incredible serial entrepreneur, wedding photographer, educator in this entire space. And I'm so honored to have you on, but please welcome Jai Long. How are we doing, man?
Good, man. I'm really excited for our conversation today. I know there's just like a lot of things we can dive into, and we always have a good conversation when we get together. So it's awesome.
Me too. And excited to have you here, man. But obviously I know a little bit more about your background just because over the years that I've been following you and then just being a part of your workshops and all that. But maybe for the listeners, give me just a quick 1 minute, 2 minute little synopsis of who Jai Long is, kind of where you came from.
Well, it's pretty hard to like summarize my whole life in 2 minutes, but let's do it. So I am a human from Australia. I've done photography. I was a photographer for 10 years and I won all the awards and did all the things and flew all over the place and had a very fruitful, successful career there. I have been doing education for almost 10 years now, and I've done literally sold out workshops all over the world, like lots of them. Got some best-selling courses, got a podcast, all that kind of stuff. Got a clothing brand called No Skin that's based in Melbourne. We've got a shop down there and we sell all over the place. I do property developing as well, sort of like my side thing that I love to do and something that I get really passionate about. Things that light me up really is showing people how to make money is like a huge thing, and showing people what I've done. Like I grew up very poor. I grew up low socioeconomic area. Living off food stamps, government housing, all that kind of stuff. And whenever I found a new piece of information that like changed my life in a small way, I always like wish someone would give me that piece of information that I didn't have to find it on my own. So I'm always setting out now to like, you know, whenever I learn something, I'm like, oh guys, you got to see this. You got to, you know, this is the way that I did it. My superpower really is to be able to make money, funny enough, and probably communication. And like, it's selfish for me to hold that all to myself. So I'm always trying to empower others, especially creatives. I'm like, how can you make money or have that mindset around money where you feel like you can talk about it and you feel free with it? And how can you make people's lives better around you and bring value to the people around you? So like doing all of that, but with kindness. And I feel like that mesh with creatives and creativity, it all sort of comes together in a weird mix, but makes me really excited about getting up in the morning and sharing the things that I've learned and learning things, man. I'm always making sure I'm not the smartest in the room, but I am a sponge. Like I listen more than anybody else, and I write down notes more than anybody else, and I ask stupider questions than anybody else, you know. And I think for me, it's never like put my ego in front. It's always like my success is worth more than my ego, and I'm like searching for the right things because it makes my life easier and it keeps food on the table and everything else. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think that's something that I find really hard to do. And I think a lot of creatives find hard to do too. Like, whereas there's so much knowledge out there that we could obtain and so many podcasts and so many things we could listen to, just never stop. How do you find that like you really take that information in and like say, okay, I'm going to apply that today?
Yeah, I think it's really hard. The more that you know, the more that you don't know, you know? Like I literally have coaches or like people, students of mine, they'll say to me like, Jai, how have you got a coach? It makes no sense because you are a coach. And then, you know, they're sort of saying it as a joke and it's funny. I'm like, man, you shouldn't learn from someone that's not learning. Like that's not a thing, you know? It's like if you're learning from someone that's hit a ceiling, you're learning from the wrong person, you're also going to hit that ceiling. So for me, there is no ceiling because it's all about growth all the time. I am not the type of person that wants to learn everything for any random reason. I want to learn specific things that are going to help me in a specific time, and that's all. So I don't try and retain information for no reason. If I'm going to read a book, if I get halfway through the book and I learn a few things that make sense to me, then I'm done with the book. That's all I needed for me to move forward and take action. If I buy a course, let's say I bought a course for $10,000, which I've done many times, and there's one thing that's going to make me, let's say $40,000, $50,000, I can 5x my return. All I'm looking for is that one thing. And so it's very calculated, like the information that I'm trying to pull in. I'm trying to pull in the exact right thing that I need right now that's that's going to help me overcome the block that I'm facing right now, or the limiting belief that I'm facing, or the challenge, that I'm facing.
Yeah. Do you feel like you kind of take on those courses and just kind of look from a 30,000 foot view and say like, oh, this is actually going to help me, and kind of skip the rest?
I think when you get more confident in like processing information like that, you no longer look at a course. If I was looking at a course and go like, is this going to be worth it for me? Like, what's my return on investment? Then it's not worth it. Like, it just simply isn't, because I'm not in the right headspace, and it's not solving the right problem for me. So if I look at a course, I'm like, oh man, I've been thinking about that for a long time, and literally it's just a pain in the butt. I'm going to get this course right now. I know in my own ability that I can make it work, and I can find the right information, and I can drive that into my business, and I'll test it, and I'll pivot it and change it and A/B test it until it works. And I've got that ability because I've been, I've got the proof. I've done it over and over and over, and that's how I know I work. So if I'm looking at something in a program or a podcast, for instance, if I'm listening to a podcast and I'm like, oh man, this is service-based, I know there's nothing in here, like I'll just turn that off. But if I hear something and it's like, okay, we're going deeper here, there's something here, I know I'm going to be able to pull something from this, and it's going to change the game for me. And when I say change the game, like literally change my life, sometimes it's the smallest thing that changes my life. Like, it's not like, oh my God, my whole business is completely different. It's like one small little move can like move the trajectory of my ship. The same as one small hole can like sink a ship, or another analogy for it is like, if you've got a flat path and you're flying from New York to London, if you are off the path by 1%, you're going to end up probably in Iceland, nowhere near. So it like makes a huge difference. So I always know with the compounding, all I need to know is one tiny thing, and it's going to put me on a new path that's going to get me closer, that 1% closer towards my goal.
Man, I love that. But maybe take me back to like what it was like going from photography to, hey, I'm going to step into my first, education course that I'm going to build, or whatever it is that you're going to sell. What were the steps that you kind of took to get to where you are now?
Yeah, 2013 is when I started my photography business. And at this stage, I was really good at business. And I obsessed over like reading books, like for like 10 years. Like, don't forget, my first business is when I was like 20 years old. I was bankrupt by the time I was 21. I had my next business when I was like 22 or 23 or something. And in that span of my 20s, especially early 20s, I consumed books like there was nothing, like reading about money, finance, wealth, investing, business structure, like everything. And then, because I just didn't know what I didn't know. So I was like hungry, because I don't like the feeling of like not understanding or not knowing. And so when I first launched my wedding photography business, I didn't even know how to use my camera. Like, I quit my job and I was like, I'm going to be a photographer. My wife was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, do you even know how to use a camera? I was like, I don't, but I will learn. I don't know how to get clients, but I'll learn. And I did. And that first year, I put out a goal, and I said, in the first 24 months, I'm going to run my first workshop. In the first 12 months, I'm going to do 6 figures turnover, run my first workshop within 24 months, and I'm going to win an award within 24 months. And I think 2015, I won like 30 rangefinder top 30. I hosted my first workshop in 2015, and I did hit 6 figures in the first year. So I had ambitious goals from the very start, and I always have a clear, like, what is my goals and what's the time frame, and then I work towards that. What needs to be true for that goal to happen? And yeah, that first workshop, man, I didn't know photography very well at that stage. I only just sort of learnt it. So what I did is I actually got one of my friends that I believe is one of the best photographers in the world, Ryan Muirhead, and I flew him to Australia. And so we both taught this workshop. I taught business. He taught the photography side. And so I taught business to creatives the way that I make sense of it as a creative. And then Ryan brought his film cameras and talked about the art side of things. And it works really well. And I felt like I was onto something. I got a lot of hate. I got a lot of pushback from that, because I wasn't like, who am I in the industry? I wasn't qualified. The legacy photographers that were there at the time, like, really didn't like me sort of pushing the status quo. Because basically I wasn't even at the stage where I could talk at their workshops, but all of a sudden I had my own workshop, And
Yeah.
I didn't like all the gatekeeping. So instead of me waiting to be invited to talk at one of their workshops, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to start my own thing. Like,
Love it.
and you know what I mean? You can come and talk at my workshop. And that's how my mentality's always worked. It's like, I'm never waiting for the thing. I'm always like making it happen regardless of anything. It's the same as like, I think at the same year, 2015, I talked at maybe way up north, and there was a few workshops. There was one in New York and a couple others. And I remember the one in New York. I like contacted them. I was like, man, how do I become a speaker? And they're like, well, we're already full and the budget's all done. And I was like, I'm going to pay for my own flight. I'm going to come over. How's that sound? And they're like, what, from Australia? Well, if you can do that, then let's do it. I was like, okay. So I flew myself there, and then I was like one of the speakers there, and no one heard of me. But it was like, I was that ambitious that I was like, my goal was to be a speaker on stage, not to try and like make lots of money. So of course I was going to spend the money to reach the goal, you know, where most people go like, well, I'm undervalued or whatever. But I'm like, man, fuck the value, fuck the money. Like if I've got a goal and I'm like passionate and I'm excited about something, like I'm going to move heaven and earth to make it happen. You know, I value me, so it doesn't matter what they value.
Dang.
So that's the start of it. That was the start of it all.
So what came out of that, you know, workshop that you spoke at?
Yeah. So I lost $5,000, and it was like 6 months worth of work. And so it was really hard. I learned that I didn't know as much as I thought when it came to launching stuff. So I had to learn some new stuff. I got a lot of new connections. A lot of people knew who I was now. So I knew that was going to happen. I was going to expand my brand. I met a lot of cool people, like lifelong friends and stuff. And it did put me on a stage of like, okay, so this guy is an educator and he is real. And so I did get attention from other educators and stuff, which was really cool. The other thing was it started my brands, because my whole thing was I didn't love gatekeeping. And at the time, man, this doesn't sound like long ago, but 2015, right? I was in some Facebook groups where there was so much gatekeeping from the educators, but also in those groups, there were so many people that like would bring down like women photographers or minorities and like things like that. They were, you know, I remember this one girl, literally, she was saying how like she charges $4,000 to be a photographer. And there was all these posts saying like, you're a woman, how can you charge that much? It makes no sense. You're ripping people off. And like literally. And I was like, how backwards is this stuff? You know, and it was because like the educator as well, there's like the backwards person and it all leads from the top. But I remember looking at all this and I was like, instead of complaining about any of it, because that's not going to make change, I'm going to make my own community and my own following and build my own thing with my own beliefs and my own values, and I'm going to make a change. And so since then, that's been the core of everything that we do. It's like, how can we make change for good, for what we want? When we launched the Wedding Photography Summit, it was $7 a ticket. The reason why we did it was because I was like, it's unfair that everyone has to pay $2,000 for any kind of decent education and everything else is shit. How can we make it so affordable that if you're just starting, you get quality education, not gate-kept education? So we set out and we got the best educators in the world and we put them all together and it made no sense. And we sold tickets for $7, but we made it accessible. That first workshop sold 8,000 tickets. And we made it accessible to everybody because the whole thing was about like, how can we change the industry for the better, not because it serves us the best, if that makes sense. And I got a lot of hate from that, man. There was a lot of educators that were like, dude, you're undervaluing us. I sell the same workshop for like, you know, $1,000 and you just gave it away for $7. Like, you know, there was a lot of hate, of course. And those people are not around anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it has nothing to do with what you sell. It has to do with like the brand and what you're doing for the community.
That's right. If you're showing up for the right reason, the right people will resonate with it. And I think it makes it all worth it. Like the emails that I get are so deep, so long. And sometimes I'm like, this is like a whole book. And I have to, you know, schedule it for myself for Thursday night after work to read an email from someone on like how one of our products or how I helped them in some way or their podcast helped them in some way. And when you see those things, it's like you realize that all the sleepless nights and all the things, it's like, wow, we've actually made real change here. And that's why you do it, for that person, not for the 10 that are complaining, but for that one, because they actually needed it. And then it feels worth it.
It's amazing. And so did you already have education in place when you went to go speak at that summit the workshop? No education. No education. So you weren't even technically an educator, but you decided to be a speaker at a workshop.
That's right. Yeah. So like I did my first workshop and then I started talking at on stages and then I started doing workshops. But I released my first course in 2019. Well, the funny thing was like releasing a course 2019, a couple of things. One was it was the wrong time because no one did courses in 2019. It doesn't sound like that long ago, but honestly, literally, people were so skeptical on courses. They all wanted, it's like, has to be a workshop, has to be real, has to be tangible. And I found it really hard. So in 2019, my whole job in marketing was teaching people that courses can be trusted. Like courses can move them forward. So that's what it was, literally. And I'm like, courses are the new way. And then I positioned myself. So this is the end of 2019. Like we did some good stuff with our courses. 2020 hit and I was building my flagship course. And it was like, it turned from the wrong time to like, oh my God, this is the perfect time. Because while everyone else was all like telling me that like courses, no one's ever going to buy them. You need to have like, you need a seminar or a conference and you need a workshop and it needs to be content day. I was the only one really that had a course, like a flagship course that helped people through that time. And so, of course, my business was positioned correctly for everything that happened, which was amazing, man.
I mean, that was like straight out of COVID, right? Everything's shut down. Then you launch a course.
Yeah.
Is this the six-figure business map?
Six-figure business map launched during COVID. Yep. So when we were I think we got locked down in March and we launched it by April.
Okay. And do you have any it
was fast.
Any success numbers on the amount of people that kind of bought that course and then still achieved six figures after COVID?
Oh yeah, man. So I mean, that first year, so I had employees and everything, and I was like made it my thing. I was like, I'm not going to fire anyone. I'm going down with the ship, and but we have to put in the hours. We're going to build this thing. This thing's going to be a game changer. I was like, people don't understand business. I've been through recessions and I've been bankrupt. I understand the lows. So I was like, with COVID, I was like, man, it's just another low. Like I thrive in this. I know exactly what's going on. And I was like, no one else does though. So we need to build a course that's going to help people get out of that situation. So that first launch, we brought in 11 people, which wasn't life-changing or anything, but it was just like enough to sustain us. And then the next launch, which was like, I think May, we brought in like 66 people. So that was like over $100,000 that we made. And that was like, all of a sudden I was like, okay, we're onto something here. And then by December, we did over $1 million in sales because the word spread quick and people were making money during COVID. And also it wasn't just about making money. Like there was, the thing that I found during COVID was, and I found it fascinating, and it happens now as well, is there were so many educators in 2019, and everyone kept saying it's oversaturated. In 2020, there was none. The saturation disappeared because, to be honest, and I hate throwing shade, but a lot of the educators didn't know what to do because they haven't been in the industry for long enough, or they just didn't know business. So they were selling something, but they just didn't really know. And so they were all complaining, like, there's nothing you can do. Don't give refunds. There was some like bad advice, but all the conferences shut down. WPPI shut down. Like literally everything shut down. Nobody innovated nothing. Everyone just went into victim mode and that was it. So what we did was like, let's do the opposite to everyone. Everyone's contracting. Let's expand. So I put all my money into like ads. We created the Wedding Photography Summit. And our reason why I was like, we need to bring as much education as we can to people that really need it right now. And also we're not competing with WPPI or anything else. No one's doing anything. I thought they would, but they didn't. So by the time that year ended, we were a seven-figure business because it was like, what people don't realize about business is that business solves a problem. And so what all the other educators did is they went the same as all their, students, and they were looking at the problem, but they didn't become the solution. And so it's like you make money as an entrepreneur when there is a problem. If there's a problem, it unlocks new wealth, unlocks new money. So as soon as there was a problem, I was like, man, if I'm feeling like a little bit insecure right now because COVID just hit, I'm like, everyone's feeling like this, so how can we be a solution, not part of the problem, and be an echo chamber of what's happening? And wow. That just changed everything, it literally did. And I showed up for everyone that year, and then everyone showed up for me, and I felt like it was an amazing collaboration. Like there was so many people that made money from that year. There was a lot of people that lost their businesses, and they were just like, well, there's nothing in our, it's all out of our control. The government's done all this stuff, but there were so many businesses that were born. And today, there's six-figure businesses and they're industry leaders actually. And it all started because they were in the business map at that time, and they built during a time when everybody else has given up. And I would say it in the course over and over. I'm like, guys, now's the time to take market share. Now's the time to build while everyone else is scared, because it's not always going to be this way, but it's important cycles that weekends do lose their grip on the market because that's when it's oversaturated, and it gives space to new people. And of course, it's going to happen to me, and it's going to happen to everybody. But that's just a cycle, and it's really a natural thing, and it needs to happen. Like, things need to move through an industry; it can't be stagnant. And as soon as things move, new money is born because new money changes hands, and that's when you can get wealth.
I love that, man. Dude, kudos to you for being an incredible educator that kind of stands up and also is just like the backbone for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
It's like, I'm a true entrepreneur at heart. And so when I see problems, I see solutions. And like, that's really the most important thing. And other educators, like, they didn't show up because like, they were scared, and rightfully so. It was a really scary time. No one really knew how to navigate it, and like, everyone was fighting their own demons, and like, there was just so many things. And like, my heart goes out to all those people. And to be honest, I got to help a lot of other educators, and it was incredible. Like, even like starting the summit and getting them back on the stage as a virtual stage, but they were back out and working, and I was paying them and everything. So it's cool. That's like, it's just. When I think about that year, I'm like, it's a pivotal year for me in my business because it was like, finally something happened, and that's what you want. Everyone doesn't want the recession, but entrepreneurs want the recession. The guy that started Airbnb wanted the recession. Like, the person that started Uber wanted a recession, right? And you see like the biggest billionaires are all made around 2020, made more billionaires in history than any other year. Why? So it's because they want the recession. As soon as there's a recession, it's moves money around. That's all it does. It doesn't disappear. Money never disappears. All it does is it goes from one hand to the other hand, and you can intercept that. And I think that's just an important it's the important difference.
Yeah, that's epic. So then
you can tell I'm getting passionate about this.
I love it, dude. I could see the passion, and I'm so excited to be on the opposite end. But back me up a little bit. I mean, you're building this course out. First of all, are you building the course by yourself before you hire employees, or are you making an investment saying, hey, I'm going to hire employees first to build this course for me, with me? Talk me through that.
I hired my first employee in 2015. His name is Morgan, and he just helped me with, at the start, he came from like box factory worker, and he would help me just with like wrapping up albums and sending them off, and like going to the post office, and then he got into like coloring my images, then editing my images, and then like basically doing everything. So he was there with me in 2020, like helping me build the course. I also, in 2019, I started expanding my education business because I was building courses. So I hired a full-time designer, a full-time project manager. Who else did I have? I had a few contractors. I also had a photo booth and DJ business. So I had like full-time employees over there. I was in a position where there was like people working for me, and then it was pretty hard to like try and sustain that and then give refunds for weddings and all that kind of stuff. But when we built that course, I remember I had, after refunds, I think I had $110,000 in my account. And then I refunded a couple of workshops, and I refunded almost all my weddings. And after all of that, I had $10,000 in the bank account, which sounds like a lot, but to put it in perspective, I went to my employees and I said, look, I'm not going to let anyone go. We will just fight to the end, but we have $10,000, which gives us a runway of around about 3 weeks. Like, that's it. And if you're with me, you're with me. If you're not, you can leave now. I did have like, I think 2 people leave now, and Morgan stayed. He was like, no, man, I'm like all in on this. The other ones were like, I'm going to go find a job. From there, we just worked night and day to make this happen. And when those first 11 people joined, I was like, hey, this gives us another 5 weeks runway. And so in that 5 weeks, we recorded the whole course. We like structured it all together. We put it all together. We learnt funnels. We learnt fucking ads, like everything. And then we were like just at the tether of like losing, like we had no more money for the next week's wages. And then we launched it again officially. And then we did over 6 figures. We did $123,000, I remember. And then I was like, how can we like really blow this up? And then we started the Wedding Photography Summit, and I spent that $100,000 on ads. So I went all in, and I spent the other $23,000 on paying the speakers and everything else. Went all in. We had no money when it came to the summit, like not $1 in the bank account. I was like, if this doesn't work out, we're just fucked. And I think we did like maybe 500,000 in sales or something. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And then in the next couple of months, we did roughly around about the same. So it did feel like things blew up, but like we went all in that year. We were like tethering on like, and I'm very transparent with my employees. I'm like, we literally have no money right now. This is the truth of it. And you're with me riding or dying, or you're not, like, but this is what's happening, you know? And I'm like that right now, literally, even, you know, this year and last year, there's been so many times when I just don't have enough money for wages next week. And I'm like making something work, and they all know it too. So I'm not trying to stress them out, but I'm like always very transparent. My employees literally have fucking access to my bank accounts. They know how much money is in there. They know what goes on in the books. Like they see the decisions that I make and the money that I lose sometimes for bad decisions and everything. And I keep it transparent like that because I'm like not trying to hide something or try and make lots of money and they lose. You know, it's like if I win, they get bonuses and we all win and everything else. But yeah, it's pretty wild. And that was a wild year, man.
That's insane. That's insane. First of all,
it was.
I don't know anybody that is that transparent with their employees like that, to where it's just like kind of cards out on the table, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, like even with their money and stuff, because I'm like really good with money. So like at least once a month, I sit down with all of them and I'm like, this is what you got to do with your money. This is where you got to invest it. How much money are you making right now? What's in your superannuation? You know, and like what insurance are you buying? And like what crypto are you buying right now? And I tell them all, like, you know, even with crypto and stuff, I'm like, stick all your money in this, and then it works out. Like, so the thing is with them, I'm like, guys, you got to build a legacy. If you're working for me, you need to have the money working for you. So that way it doesn't matter how much you get paid, it matters what you do with the money, you know? And them seeing like how much that I actually make and then the work that I put in to make it happen, and the fearlessness when it comes to like investing in 100,000 in the ads when we got no money, you know, it's like ride or die all the time. It makes them show up as well, relentless. Like they show up because they're like, fuck, I know Jai would do this. So like I'm going all in as well. And so it creates like a real community or like a family kind of vibe, you know? It's like, they know, like one big thing that happened to me actually, with one of my employees, I actually launched the course and in 2021, and it just didn't really work out. And we brought in $30,000 worth of money. And one of my employees was like, Jai, I am so stressed. I just wish you didn't launch that course because honestly, I can't, like the workload is just too hectic and I just can't do this. And I was like, really? Okay, well, I'm canceling the course. I'll refund everybody. They're like, yeah, but you really need the money. I'm like, I know we do, but we're going to find money somewhere else. So I contacted all those people and I refunded them all the 30,000, which was like what we needed back then. We just didn't have much money in the bank. And them just seeing that I was willing to let go of the money to put their like, you know, their mental health and everything and their like happiness in the forefront means that person's still working for me and they're still relentless because they're just like, I know fucking Jai would do this for me, you know?
Yeah.
I personally think gone are the days when everything has to be secret. And I don't know, like, I think it's like you can, like employees can choose if they want to share how much they get paid with each other. And like everyone's got a different mindset with their money and stuff. I think for me as a business owner, we're all working towards making money for the business. And they know the sacrifices that we put into it. And they know that I'm going to get rewarded the most as well because it's like me, you know, providing the opportunities, but also putting the money back in and over and over and over. So I've had the same mindset when I was younger and I worked for one of my bosses when I was an electrician. I would come to him every week and I would always say, boss, what can I do for you this week that will make you the most amount of money? And he was like, Jai, I fucking love you. I'm like, because that's my job. My job is to make you the most amount of money because the more money that you make, the more successful you are, the more secure I am in my job. I know you're not going to fire the person that produces the most. I know you will not, right? And we forget as employees, that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like if I'm working for someone, I need to work out how can I make the business the most amount of money. And so with all my employees and stuff, like I'm open with how much money we make. I'm like, guys, we need to make the most amount of money. When I put I put it on the board, I'm like, this is how much money we're going to make next week on our launch. And then they're like, Jai, we're trying to make the most amount of money. Like we need to do that. So then that way we can like hire more people, have more fun, more time off, or whatever it is. Like this year, I know I'm just talking heaps now, but this year, like, I told everyone, I'm like, if you can build the email list, man, like by another 10,000, just like new subscribers on the email list, I'm going to buy every employee a ticket to Thailand and you all get to go to Thailand at the end of the year, you know? And they're like, oh my God. I'm like, you got a KPI? And like, that's it, man. Like, because 10,000 emails to my business is worth equivalent to like 500 to $1 million. And I'm like, that's how much it's worth. And so they know that. And I'm like, and if you can achieve that, without me putting the input in there, it's like, then you should be rewarded for that, you know? So it's like little things like that. And I think it like creates culture and it's, you create like a ride or die kind of mentality with your team that are like, they're all in on it because you've got their back. And I hate the saying like the client's always right. It's not. My employees are always right. I'll fire my clients all day long over my employees. You know, like I'll let them know that. You know, if someone's like complaining about like my PA to me, I'm like, man, I'll go talk to my PA and I'll see that and check her side of the story because it's us versus you, to be honest. You know, I don't care about your money.
That's crazy. Is that, I mean, that's because number one, they've either been working with you for so long and they're just, you know, kind of like in that mindset with you. They've learned along the way of like, how should I work? So they become you know what I mean? In a sense, or are you doing like a really good job of hiring them to where you kind of like ask all those questions up front? Like, hey, this is how we work.
Expectations are always really important. The other thing I do with hiring people is I get my other employees to interview them. So I think that's really important. So I'll have an interview with somebody and I'm like, I got a good gut feeling about this, but like, I'll be like, hey, Mel, I want you to jump on a call. We're going to do another call and you're going to jump on. I want you to ask some questions. And I'm like, just don't hold back. And then I'll get someone else on. I'm like, I want you to ask some questions because at the end of the day, I'm like, I see their talent and everything, but I want to know that they get along with the team because that's the most important thing. They're going to be working with the team all the time. And then when they do get in there, like sometimes they're in Slack and they're probably bitching about me and Jai pushes us too hard and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, good, man. Like you should. Like that's the, you know, you guys are all part of something and you can complain about each other and about me and all this kind of stuff because I'm not like dictating anything here. But it's like give them the freedom and also just give them the choice. Like, so if I find someone I think they're really good and my employees are like, man, I'm just not vibing. All right, well, we won't hire that person because you've got to work with them the most, you know. I think doing that helps bring, like if you bring everybody in on the process of everything, every decision that you do, it creates like more of a family thing. Like whenever I say like me as an educator or like what I'm doing, I always refer to it as us. You know, I'm like, we are building this thing. Yeah. Like we are building this thing. Like you guys built it just as much as I have. You know, you're like, what is your decision on this? And then the way that they refer it, they always say our business. They never say your business. Like our business is doing so well. Like we're hitting the KPIs. I'm like, you're right. Our business is. I never say it's my business, you know, because they helped me build it as much as I did. So that's just like a leadership thing though. And I've led teams back when I was an electrician or back when I had a cafe as well. And I've learned like so many different things from so many different people. And for me, that's worked the best.
Yeah. Building that culture is huge, man. Huge. Yeah. I mean, whether they complain or not during a day or busy season or whatever, but can they walk away and like, how do they talk about your business outside of the office? You know what I mean? It's everything.
That's right, man. And I know like there's no one in my business that's going like, oh, it's just a shit business. I know like if they're complaining about me, I know what they are saying. Like I know that 100% they're like, man, Jai's made a mistake again. Like he's pushed too hard this time. He's pushing too far. Like I told him not to do that. That's what they're saying. Because like I'll make it like I'll ask everybody what do they think, but I'll still push and do my way. I'll still like I'm still doing the risky way because I'm the visionary. So I'm like I'm gonna go all in on this, whether you guys like it or not. And then they're like, well, it's uneasy because we might lose our jobs. I'm like, you might, but we're not gonna grow anywhere if we don't do this, you know. So and I'm like, trust me because you're here because I fucking did this over and over. So you need to trust something here.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
I mean, over under, like they've stuck with you this whole time. It sounds like you just continue to be successful, whether you make mistakes on certain things here or there.
I think so, man. I think like that's the interesting thing is like I think now everyone that's worked for me, they've seen me at my lowest point where we've just had no money or we've had to bootstrap our way through. And they've seen me at the highest point when we've like made the most and we've done the most and stuff. And they've seen that I don't really change in any of the situations. And I think they know that I'm not going to stress or jump off the boat when it's sinking, you know. And I think that's like a really, like for a safety thing or just security, like deep down, they're like, okay, Jai's got me. He's not just going to randomly fire me. He's not going to just randomly lose all our money and stuff. Like, you know, it is calculated and there's proof there. I think when I first started, it wasn't as much proof, but I had to ask permission, you know. So like I would say to my employee, I'm like, hey, I'm going to make a decision here. And this means our business is going to last for 3 weeks and you'll be fired after 3 weeks if it doesn't work. Can get permission from you to make this decision. If it does work, we're going to, progress so much further. And they'll be sitting there. They'll literally sit there and they'll be thinking about it. And so now they've got this decision, and I'll listen to it. And I'm like, yeah, I think, Jai, you should do it. Like, if you think it's the right thing, I'm like, I think it's 100% the right thing. Let's do it then.
I would have been the employee that was like, maybe you don't put the full $100,000 in the ads, maybe 80. Like what made you
I know.
Not 80, and you had to go, no, we're doing everything.
Yeah, my personality is like, if I don't put in 100%, we don't have 100% chance of succeeding. Like if I put in 80%, I'm like, we had more in the tank and we could have went in more. And also, if you sort of do burn the boats like that, it means everything stops on us, because what the discussion is now, if we're sitting around a round table, it's not like, oh, okay, so Jai, if this doesn't work out, like, what can we do? It's like, fuck, this has to work out. Like for all of us, and we're all invested. And then we all sit there, and the conversations that we have are next level, because it's like nothing's on the table. Whatever we have to do, we will do, because it's fight or flight. Like we're surviving. And so that's when we've come up with the ideas of like launching the summit within 6 weeks, or doing whatever that we've done has just come from that space where it's like, it has to happen. And here's the time frame. And basically the time frame so short because that's when the money runs out. Can we do it? And everyone says no. I'm like, can we do it though? I'm like, yeah, well, we have to.
I mean,
you know what
how
I mean?
do you put for ads? I want to get your answer on this, because like ads in general, like you put all the money into your ads, right? But when it comes to ads, sometimes there's like things you have to tweak, or maybe you change the creative or you change the copy. Like you were like, no, I'm going all in. Here's our first ad, and it's just going to work.
Yeah, that was literally it.
Was that your first?
It was interesting.
Your first time running ads though.
No, so what happened was I started running ads like a few months before, 3 months before. I ran $100,000 worth of ads, right?
So you had some knowledge. 3 months.
I had some knowledge. And I was like, they're working, but they're not really working too well. And I see everyone else, and they seem to be working really well. And I just didn't understand why mine are not working very well. So I'm like running these ads. And then I seen someone on Facebook, actually. His name's Zach. He's a really cool guy. And he was talking about ads and how they work. And I don't know how I found him, but he was in a group or something. I reached out to him. I was like, man, do you do any coaching? I'm running some ads. I've got a big event coming up. I'm going to be spending some big money on ads and stuff. And he's like, I do coaching, but it costs $20,000. I think it cost. And he's like, I can jump on a few calls with you and we can go over some ad strategies that will work. And he's like, I looked at what you're doing and I believe I can get a good return on your investment. And I was like, $20,000. I was like, man, I'm really keen on this. Can I do a payment plan or something? Like, what can we do here? Because I just didn't have much money. I was like, can I pay you some like afterwards? I went back to the team and I told the team, I was like, hey, look, because they already knew that we're putting all the money in the summit. I was like, look, I've got this crazy idea, but I'm thinking about spending $20,000 on this guy to give us some like advice on the ads. And they're all like, what the fuck, Jai? Like, this is the stupidest thing you've ever come up with. Like, this is so bad. And I was like, look, the thing is, if I'm spending $100,000 on ads, the money is not going to push it. It has to be some sort of strategy, right? Like, I need something here, and it could be one little thing. Anyway, I convinced him. And so I signed the contract and I got onto the call with this guy, and it was like 4 calls, maybe like an hour each time. And it was during COVID. So like I'll sit there on Zoom. I'm like, okay, dude, I'm running this big event. What do I need to do here? And so he looked over my stuff and he's like, oh, Joe, you're running your ads a little bit wrong. All you need to do is like tweak it like this and this. And that was the first time. I was like, sweet. So I like tried that out and it kind of works. And then on the second call, he was like, okay, have you ever thought about like an upsell for this funnel that you're doing? You know, I think you could do something here with this and this. And he structured a couple of things for me. And I was like, okay, like I'll trust you on this. Anyway, I implemented just a couple of things from that. And from that, I think we did, and with that upsell, we did around about 230,000 in sales. Directly from what he told me to do. And I was like, holy shit, man, I can't believe I almost didn't invest in myself like this. And I just spent $100,000 on ads, you know? And so those ads, they worked out amazingly too. Like, this might not sound good, but it costs around about like $9 to sell a $7 ticket. So, and then, but with the upsell, it like brought it up higher. So then that way, you know, it like worked itself out. $9 to sell a ticket, $9 to sell anything is good money. And so like each one, it only cost me like $3 to get, or $2 to get someone through the door. And I was like, fuck, let's scale these things up. And so we did, and we scaled it up, you know, to 100,000. Once we got to about there, I was like, all right, we should probably turn this off. And that was like the day that it, you know, that it was going, the bank account was fucking bleeding. But, that's how it came about. Like that's how it came about with like the ads. And then since then, I think we've spent like personally, I've spent around about 700,000 on ads in the last few years. And it's just like, obviously now I know what I'm doing with ads, but back then it was just like balls to the wall kind of thing, just making shit up, making it happen.
Dang.
And ads back then were a little bit different to now too, because obviously there's a lot of competition now in the education space and stuff. Like I literally open my phone every 2 seconds. There's like ads for photographers that are doing something that that I was doing back in 2020. And there's like trillions of those ads. So it's like, if you're trying to run an ad now, it's not the same as back then.
Yeah. How do you speak into that a little bit? Because I think we're all kind of feeling that. And I know you're kind of coming out with this course launcher course too. And
yeah.
I'm sure you're feeling it as well. So speak into that a little bit, where people are like, I don't know if I want to create a course. I mean, I want to, but am I good enough? Like, can I build a course that's going to stick out there? Are my ads going to make me money? You know what I mean? Is it going to be successful? A lot of people kind of come with that a little bit of fear mentality just because of the competition.
I think those that are coming with the fear mentality are kind of already losing the game, to be honest. Like it's like one of those things. It's like you have to be headstrong first to get into something, because if you're not, it gets so much harder out there than it does just looking at the market.
Yeah.
And there's a few things on that. Like one is ads have never been easier to run than ever before. Like you can use AI with ads now. There's actually great returns, but there's always something different that you got to do. That's all. It's just something different. Or like a different structure, different pricing, like different position, like different messaging. And it's, I would say, easier now to run ads than it was in 2020, for sure. Fucking ads were so hard back then. I don't know why they made it so hard, but you had to be like an ads buyer, like a media buyer, to be able to even understand it. These days, you can just click it open and then press publish and you're going to do well. But then like you need to be better at other things though, which is like your messaging and like getting people results. You got to be real. I think in 2020, like I was selling courses and people were buying one because there was nothing else. So it's like, well, we'll sign up to Jai Singh and that's sweet. But now there's been so many shitty courses that people are getting more wary. So they're like, oh, I signed up to something and it wasn't what they said and it was pretty horrible. So now you got to fight against all those as well, which makes it harder. So you really, I believe now, you can't rely on like your name or your social media following. You have to rely on the results that you get people. And if you can like get people real results, then your course will scale, like it will actually move, because people want results. Like they'll pull themselves through heaven and earth to make that happen.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of courses from a lot of educators at the moment that like probably won't get people results, and that's okay. Like they're starting out, and like I'm not going to throw any shade at people starting out. Like absolutely, they need to get out there and create some shit. And they'll find better stuff. Like they're making something now and they're going to learn more stuff, and then they're going to get better and better. And as long as they're not discouraged, and not discouraged by the hate and from the competition and the naysayers and like everything else, and they keep going at it, then they've got a really fruitful career in front of them, I think.
Yeah. I've definitely taken a course and felt where I was like, man, this wasn't what I wanted in the beginning. Like I was almost like a little weary of taking the course, and they kind of just sold me on it. And then I didn't get the results at the end. Do you have anything that you guys like do for people that are buying your courses? Like, are you making sure that like you're doing everything you can to make sure that they're successful? And it's almost like,
oh man, absolutely. There's only so much you can do though, but we go above and beyond. An example is there was a girl that came to my retreat this time last year. I got this email yesterday, and she was like, okay, so at the retreat, you promised that we'll be able to make more income from like creating educational resources. But the retreat went for 3 days and you gave me too much information. And so since then there's been no follow-up, and so I haven't taken action, but you didn't deliver on your promise. I've been waiting and I haven't made more money, and it's been a year. And I'm like, okay. So if you haven't done anything, you're probably not going to make any more money. You can't say that to someone, and hopefully she's not listening, but you can't say that to someone, right?
Yeah.
So, and if she is listening, like there's no shade to you at all. This is just sort of like the way that it works. So what I did was I was like, I fully understand. It's my fault because I did not follow up, and I haven't given like a retreat's pretty hard. Like you don't have anything tangible afterwards. It's not like a course where you can watch all through it. But I was like, I did just release a course though, and it does go over some of the same information. So what I would love to do is give you 12-month access to that course. So that way you've got more of a framework of the stuff that you already learned at my retreat. And then that way you can get some results. But again, you've got to take action on it. You know, so I can like give more like that. But it is going to come down to the person to take action. Like sometimes people are so risk adverse that they will email me first. Well, they'll sign up and then they'll email me and they go like, hey, so just in 3 months time, if I haven't taken any action, can I get a refund? I just want to like get on my front foot. And they're preparing themselves to fail over and over and over. Yeah. And I'm like, to be honest, I'm not going to do that for you because I want you to show up and I want you to watch this. And in 3 months time, if it doesn't work, I want you to email me back so we can have a discussion, you know? So it is really hard to navigate like expectations and also like people's willingness to put in the work, because I think there's a lot of people that are selling people at the moment. It's like passive income or it's like get rich quick. And the first things I always say is there ain't no getting rich quick, man. I wish that I did, you know, and man, my philosophy is you should get as rich as quick as possible. Like that is a thing. The richer you get, the quicker the possible, you know, the better quality of life you're going to have, more opportunities, the more you can build shit. Like I believe you need to do that. But a get rich quick scheme, in my experience of all the things I've ever done, I've never seen it personally. Yeah. Maybe someone's done it out there, but like even like when, you know, I made a lot of money on crypto in 2021. I think we did like, I think I made over $1 million like from that, from like a workshop that I did. I made 50,000 from the workshop in 2019 and I put all of that into crypto and then that went up to $1 million. That wasn't overnight, man. I lost a lot of money in 2017. And then I was like day trading back in 2012 and 2011 and 2010 to learn the market and what I needed to do. So anyone that's seen me get that, like, Jai just fucking got lucky and like made all this money. I was like, I wish. It took me 10 years. Yeah. You know? That's so wild, it's like, it's just a mentality, man. Like you just got to learn that like everything you see on social media and stuff, it's like, yeah, someone might look like they're killing it and stuff. But if I talk to any of my successful friends, any of the top 1% in the industry, when I go talk to them, we have this look where we look at each other where we go, fuck, you've been battling too. Like, it's like you just gone to war for the last 10 years. And it's like, yeah, man, I fucking got the scars. You want to see something, you know? Yeah. There's damage. Yeah. 100%. It's different. And then someone that's new and they're sort of fumbling around with it, you know, maybe they haven't gone to war before. So they're fumbling around, don't really know how to use their gun or whatever. Probably a bad analogy, but I'm like, you could look at that person and you're like, okay, you're a rookie. And it's good to be there. But once you get in the trenches, you're going to realize that it's not all as easy as you think. Yeah. 100%. Even like with the course launch that you talk about, it's like, I know how much good, I don't know 100%, but I know so much more goes into it than just being like, oh, I'm going to build a course and then I'm going to sell it and I'm going to make ads and it's just going to sell. It's like, no, it's not that easy. You know what's funny is I had a few people join the course and the first thing that they said, they've been in my courses for a long time. So they've been in like the 6-figure business map and stuff. Okay. And I'm always talking in there. I'm very transparent in there. I even talk about my finances inside that. Like I talk about everything. And like this one couple like, Jai, I literally have so much more respect for you now because I just kind of thought you just like built this course and you just show up and you live the dream and you got passive income. But now after looking at what goes into these programs and the structures that you got going on, what's going on, she's like, oh my fucking God. Like it's a whole newfound, you know, it's like new respect because I just didn't know. And a lot of people, they literally always think like, geez, Jai just makes passive income. I'm like, fuck, I wish, man.
It's not passive, my friend.
Like, I really wish. If I didn't have to show up and market, I didn't have to show up and be on podcasts. I didn't have to show up. If I didn't have to do anything, you know, oh, that would be great. Love that for me.
You've been doing this for 4 years now, kind of strong. Do you feel like there is any passive income that's kind of coming in from it yet? Or do you feel like it's still just working a lot, but maybe the numbers are bigger?
It is like, it's really good income that you can make. Passive income, though, a lot of people don't know what passive income is, and it's sold to people from coaches that usually don't know what they're talking about when it comes to money. So passive income is essentially like, you know, it's like buying a house, even though you still got to do your research and stuff, but then you're getting paid over and over for no work that you're putting into it. So there's no work at all, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So I would say what a lot of people think is they build a supermarket and they got products in there, and then they go and then they add milk into it, And then they go, that's passive income now because I already had the supermarket, and then the milk's passive income. I would disagree. I'm like, well, you still have to advertise the supermarket. You still need to do marketing. You still need to have a good client experience. You still need to deliver the milk. The milk's still going to go off. Like there is, you still need fridges. You still need electricians. You still need a lot of things, right? I wouldn't say that milk's passive at all. Anyway, so passive income to me is not like building something and then like I don't have to do anything, because you need to show up more than ever when you build anything, like, you know, software, whatever it is. But what it's called deferred income. So deferred income is the same as like writing a book or creating software. Deferred income, and it's not even creating software, because software, you got to ongoing keep working on the thing. But let's say like writing a book, right? You write the book, you don't get paid for writing the book. But then let's say it took you a month to write the book. Then next month you start selling it. And let's say you make $10,000. Now you got paid $10,000 to write the book on that month. But let's say, a couple of months later, you got $100,000. Well, now for that time that you wrote that book, you got paid $110,000, right? And so the more that you sell it, the more you got paid for the effort that you put in. And that can compound. So in 4 years' time, you can still sell that. And you're like, man, that 1 month, I made $4 million because I got deferred income. So deferred income is building something and you know that you're going to get paid for it afterwards. And the amount that you get paid result is a direct relation to how much you sell, how much marketing you do, and everything else. So I do think like creating a course or something is the highest value thing you could do. Creating software is the highest value thing you can do, because for that time that you put in, you could get paid a lot more money. So if I think about like the 2 months it took me to build the 6-figure business map, I think we've done $7 million in sales now. And I'm like, those 2 months, I thought we were making no money. And I'm like, those 2 months were the most profitable months that I've ever had, because the work that we did, we've been paid over and over and over. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah.
It's funny because, when someone says like passive income, like, of course I want to use that word because I know it's a buzzword. And if you don't understand money, it's like easy to say. But I would argue like, you've got a software company. Is there any passive income in the software company? No. But would I think it is? Yeah. I don't understand your industry. I'm like, man, he's just making passive income. I'll get out my calculator. Every time he signs someone up, he's just making hundreds of thousands of dollars. I can't believe it. And so, someone on the outside, they just don't know what it's like on the inside. You're on the inside going like, dude, I need another, 10,000 people to sign up to sustain this thing, because we need updates. We need growth. We need advertising. We need we need support, we need expansion, we need teams, we need, and it goes on and on and on. And so it's two different stories that you see from the inside and outside.
Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, this is great for the people that are interested in getting the course launcher for sure.
Even like course launcher, for instance, what's cool is, because I don't want to ever discourage anyone from like going out there and creating something, because like I'm saying, you get in the trenches and stuff, but that's where I want to be. I want to be in the game, not in the grandstands. Like I love playing the game. I want the number on my back, running down, scoring. And what's really cool is if someone's listening right now, and let's say they're a photographer or a videographer or something, and they're thinking about, oh, maybe I should launch a course or something. I always say, it's like, okay, are you making the money that you want to make? And if you're not, are you doing the same thing this week as you did last week when you didn't make the money that you want to make, or the month before, or the year before? The money that you didn't want to make, you're still doing the same thing? Because if you haven't changed something, you're still going to make the same money that you don't want to make. That happens over and over until you start swapping out tasks to higher value tasks. So if I was like, okay, this week I'm going to spend 4 hours a week to build a course, that 4 hours next week for a year, that is the highest value thing you could do, because you can sell that thing over and over and you'll keep getting paid for those 4 hours that you took off. Where getting back to an email, you won't. Where like updating your website, like you won't, So when I think about that, I don't have time for it. I'm like, oh my God, I've only got time to create stuff that's going to keep paying me money. I don't have time for the other shit. I got a PA for my emails. I've got a web designer for my website. I ain't doing that, man.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But of course, I've noticed since I started the 6-figure business map, there is like at least another 50 6-figure business maps now, because like if someone sees something successful, they all want to jump on the train and hook in. What happens is though, it just dilutes all of them, really. Some of them Some of them might be better than mine. Some of them might be different as well. Like some of them are in Spanish. Like I got a friend, Joyce Amoro's created an amazing program. If someone's speaking Spanish, I always say, like, go join his course, man, because it's in Spanish. So you're going to get more from that, you know?
Yeah.
But okay, so there's a trend there. So it's like if you start a trend and it's a 6-figure business map and now everyone wants to do that. So while everyone's zigging, I'm going to zag. And so I don't see anyone teaching creativity and burnout and imposter syndrome and stuff. So like I'm always doing that. So I've always got like a step of where I'm like, I can see everyone wants to rinse and repeat the same thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to step to the right. I'm going to create something completely different. So my messaging, again, if I'm running ads and all this kind of stuff, it's like you don't need 6 figures to feel successful. Like, let's cut the burnout. Let's, cut the imposter syndrome and let's get some confidence. Let's build something that we love. And so it's like completely different messaging. I think this is important for anybody. Anyone that says that like the market's saturated, I always say like, and this is so harsh and, take this as a grain of salt, but I'm like, it's only saturated for you. It's not saturated for me. It's your fault that it's saturated because you're copying somebody else. That's why it's saturated, or you haven't adapted, you haven't pivoted, you haven't changed, you haven't grown. The only reason why you're in the same pool is because you're in that pool, so it's like, if you don't want it to be saturated, then change your messaging or change your product,
Get out of that pool.
Change your marketing. Get out of the pool, man. Like it's simple as that. There's something you can do that no one else is doing. All you have to do is hop out, look around. There's a new pool with no one in it. Get on it.
Which I think kind of answers the question of why you kind of chose Cara Mia for partnering along with this creative mindset. Because like when I saw her work, dude, it was like, dude, you stand out. You know what I mean? Like you are so creative.
I know, man. And what's actually interesting, and we sort of jumped on here and we're talking about like employees and stuff. So as an entrepreneur, one of the hardest things for most entrepreneurs to do is to like give up control and surrender and have a business partner or have a partner in some way. And so I've tried it before and it didn't work out, but I haven't really tried it, like gone in hard. And so when I met Cara at the Unrealistic Workshop, the same place I met you, I don't know what it was, but like we were having a drink together. We're up on the rooftop in LA and we just sort of like, it was like lightning or like sparks. It was just like, man, we need to create something together. And she was like, you're right. Like we do. Like I've got the feeling as well. And so I was like, my next level of growth is me letting go of being like the center, like the star of the business and like bringing somebody else in and trying to champion them as high as like, as high as I can with them. And they're going to do the same with me. And it's like you leave your ego behind. You got to do what's best for the team and all this kind of stuff. So for me on a selfish level, it's like, I want to do it because no one's doing it. And I want to see what it's like. How high can you go when you start going in partnerships opposed to trying to do it alone? And what does that look like for me? Like what new leadership skills do I have to learn or what new communication skills or how do I learn patience or how do I learn to let go or how do, there's so many things. So it's all brand new. And that's what I love. I love being in the space where I'm like, shit, man, I'm going to learn a lot this year and it might fail and it might be a complete flop. And that's the thing. And I'm going all in on it too. Literally all the money is in on this. We just did a launch for Course Launcher just so we can launch. This new course comes out in May. We've spent all of our money. We put it all on credit cards now because we've got credit cards. And I'm like, we're going all in and our business will run until May 20th. And if it doesn't work, it won't run. That's just the truth of it right now.
What?
Yeah. That's just the way it is.
You're launching like 2 major courses all within a half a year, right?
Yeah.
I don't know when you started Course Launcher, but I would assume sometime last year.
So Course Launcher will actually officially launch just this month, like last week actually. So March, in the middle of March.
Okay.
And then this new one's going to launch May 20th. And yeah, man, like I think when I think about this kind of stuff, like Cara and I, like, this is like the 40 grand that I just lost is on this course. Like it's just a decision that I just didn't work out. And when I think about this stuff, I'm like, and I was saying with Cara, it's going to look like a blip in the history, but it's going to feel disappointing if we don't go all in on something. It's like the money comes and goes and it does. But if you don't give it like as much fuel to the fire as you can, it's not going to burn as bright as you want it to, And so if I'm not going to be in that space where I'm going that hard, then what is the point of me starting anyway? If I don't believe in myself 100%, only believe in myself 80%, I'm not going to do it to start off with. I only do things where I believe 100%. I believe that it's going to be successful. And I do believe this thing's going to be successful. I believe it's going to be one of the biggest courses in the photography industry. Like, that's what I believe. There's no doubt in my mind.
Let's go.
And it might not be, but my belief is going to drive it towards that. Like, because my goals when I'm talking to the team is like, this is going to be the best produced course on the planet. This is going to create the most results. This is going to support people in the best way. This is going to be the biggest amount of value someone can get. And so when I like bring these ambitious, and like people always laugh at me when I start saying that, until they start understanding like the vision and how much we're putting into it. And I'm like, oh my God, you're actually right. This will be. I'm like, yeah, because I've set the standard of what is acceptable, and nothing else that falls beneath that is not acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the reason why I think it's going to be the biggest course on the planet, because I believe that like when like the way that a course really scales is not from ads or anything. It's because one person like yourself joins it, they have a life altering experience with it, and then they go, oh my God, actually I can't believe I didn't even think about this. And then you tell someone else, and then they tell someone else. So it's old school marketing. That's the whole way that the business map grew. It was literally because like someone got it, they get a whole textbook and they go, fuck, this course is like the biggest course I've ever seen. Like, it's crazy. Like, look at all the stuff in it. And then we show up relentlessly for how much that they're paid. I'm on a coaching call, sometimes up to 6 hours per month. And at the end of it, they tell their friend. It's not the ads. It's not my following or anything else. It's like their friends are all in there. Like, Jai, I've got 20 friends in here. I'm like, I know. I appreciate you. And so when you think about that, it goes back to like Elon Musk's style of marketing. Like, someone asked him, why don't you spend more on advertising and marketing? And at this stage, I wish I had the numbers, but at this stage, I think it was around about like 3 billion Ford spent on, I could be completely wrong on here. 3 billion, I think it was in 2021, 3 billion on ads and marketing was the budget for Ford. And then it was like 300 million for Volkswagen, and it was 150,000 for Tesla. And then when they asked Tesla, like, how are you spending so little on ads? And he said, if most brands spent as much as they do on ads on their products, they wouldn't have to spend it on ads. And so I think about that with my business. I'm like, if, so many people making courses that are subpar, I'm like, if most people spent their marketing budget and everything on the product itself, then once you get people in there, like, you don't need to spend it on scaling, because people are going to spread the word.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. That's what I believe.
Yep. And I feel like this course is going to be thousands of people that have easily made $100,000 in the wedding industry.
I think so.
And they're basically, at 200,000 now, and they're capped or burnt out. And they're like, dude, how can I scale this thing to 500,000? You know what I mean? How do I become the top 1% of a wedding photographer?
The top 1%, like the whole thing about like, because the course is called Metamorphosis, but it's like, so the Metamorphosis is the 4 stages, right? So you got the egg, you got the caterpillar, you got the chrysalis, and then you got the butterfly. So the egg's when we first start, and then the butterfly, like first start like on the egg, and it's like you're starry eyed and you're really excited about everything. And it's like, it's really fun. You're naive usually there.
Yeah.
And then the caterpillar has to consume 27 times its body weight, like to over its lifetime. It needs to hustle hard. So a creator usually in that space makes 6 figures. Then the next phase is a chrysalis, which most people don't want. And that's when you have to take a step back. You got to reflect. You got to look at your own portfolio. You got to look at the direction, what you're offering. You got to fire some people. You got to hire some people. A lot of people don't like to be in that stage. They keep in the hustle stage. Then after that, you make those decisions and you become the butterfly. The butterfly are the 1%. They're the people that are like, man, it's just in a flow. I get asked to talk on podcasts. I like, things are popping off all over the place. It just feels right. And the cool thing is, no one can sustain being in any of those phases. Like, once you become the butterfly, you don't stay there. It's unsustainable to try and be at the top all the time. What happens is you need to like eat enough when you're a caterpillar to sustain yourself as a butterfly, to lay eggs, to start all over again. And the cycle continues. And so once you do it through a few cycles, like I was talking about before, I've been through so many cycles when COVID hit, it now becomes so easy, because it's like, man, I know what it feels like to be the butterfly, and I cannot wait for me to be that again. I was in 2020, but I haven't been until, I believe, like later this year. Like, I feel like I'm finding my feet. I'm coming out of, like, last year I did a lot of therapy. I did a lot of reflecting. I like hired a new team and stuff. And then this year I'm like, I'm feeling ready to like take flight. And so, put that in context, you're saying like a lot of people are already making like 100,000, 200,000. Like, is exactly right, because when you're in those figures, you're no longer trying to work out what's the little strategy to make another 10 grand. You're trying to work out like, what's the thing for me to spread my wings where I feel fulfilled with this career now. And it goes for a long time and I get the respect and maybe some awards and maybe on stage and like I can like push forward. And I think that's really cool.
So amazing, man. Gosh.
Yeah, man. I'm like so passionate about this stuff. It's actually ridiculous. So
dude, I love it. Oh, could stay here all day and chat. Yeah. Man, this just inspires me to keep going.
Yeah, get out
honestly.
there.
Yeah,
make some stuff, you know. And the cool thing is like yourself and like myself, and I love talking to you because one interesting thing with the analogy of like the egg and the chrysalis and everything is most people will be attracted to this like-minded people. Right. So an egg just starting will hang out with another egg, or a butterfly. You see them flocking with butterflies. They don't hang out with caterpillars. Not that they don't want to. It's just that we're in different phases. So to put it in context, if I'm on YouTube and I'm like looking up something on YouTube, it's usually around about my level of where I am, what I'm looking for, you know? So even like jumping on stuff like this with you right now, Jimmy, is like we're both trying to create something. We're both hustling, we're both caterpillars, and we're both on that same wavelength. And it feels cool to connect with someone else that's on the same thing. And it's like we're just creating, and we both don't know what we're doing, but we're trying to make it work. And it feels amazing. And sometimes we fail, and sometimes we succeed, and everything in between. But it's like it's the story, you know. It's a cool story we get to share.
You get major wins one day, you get major lows the next. It's like a roller coaster.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you know any places where are you hanging out with other caterpillars to where it's like, dude, when I go through a low day, this is where I go to kind of get some help or feedback or whatever. Like, are you part of other masterminds, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I like, to be honest, I actually go to like my own course or program just because those guys energize me the most. I think what I love is I've never been one. You've probably seen that Unrealistic workshop. I actually went and told all the speakers, I'm like, you guys can't sit at the back. You have to sit up with everybody. I don't like the segregation. I love it when it's like all inclusive and everyone's together. And what I really thrive off is like the underdog mentality of when someone's like trying to make it work and they're like giving it all, its all. So a lot of the times, like the 1% have done that, but they're not usually there where they're trying to like go all in, where the caterpillar is like got nothing to lose and they're going all in on things. So when I get into those programs, I'm like, man, you've just invested a lot of money to be here. I'm looking at like the moves that you're making, you know, I'm looking at like how much you're investing in yourself and all these things. So it inspires me. I'm like, if you're doing that, it keeps me wanting to do that. You know, I've got no excuse, you know? So that's the way that I see those things. And that's what keeps me really going. And then with the butterfly thing, like I can feel myself, like I think I was so attracted to Cara and her energy because I feel like she's becoming a butterfly at the same time as me. And we both went through the chrysalis phase at the same time. She went for a big breakup and a whole bunch of things. And, you know, with work and stuff, like I went through a big change and everything. So I feel like right now I'm like rebranding and I'm rechanging and we're going to restructure it. And it's like, we're both becoming the butterfly at the same time. And I think that's why the collaboration works. If she wasn't there, I don't think the collaboration will work, or if I wasn't there. So I think that was like the difference maker.
Yeah. Give me like just a little bit insight as we wrap up here. Like what does that look like as a partnership for a course? You know, you don't really see that ever where two people are kind of partnering together.
It's really cool because so Cara is, we're both really creative, but I would say like she is on another level of creativity. Like she's really good. And so I said to her, what if it makes no sense and we just create for the sake of creating, and I'm going to bankroll this. She's got no money at the moment, full transparency.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm going to bankroll it as far as I can. And we'll fly to anywhere you want in the world, and you can organize anything you want in the world. And we're just going to create for as long as we can create until we launch something. How does that sound? And she was like, whoa, this is like a dream come true. I'm like, to be honest, this is the level of freedom that we need now to create something that we actually love. Because before that, it's always like, what's the expectations of the industry or who you're trying to sell to and everything else. Where now it's like, man, I don't have an ICA. We're not trying to like structure something where it's like, who's this for and everything. It's literally like, what's the thing that we need right now that would really push us? And then let's see if we attract others into that ecosystem. It could fail miserably. I've never done something like this. And it feels big. It feels risky and like it's expensive, to be honest, like for me as well.
Yeah.
But then at the end of it, like we are full equal partners too. So we both get paid 50-50. We are
Okay.
both delegating each other jobs. So, you know, she's like working on certain things. She's working on organizing the shoots. I'm working on like the sales page, and I'll get like a lot of the back end going. I'm going to work a lot on the marketing. She's working a lot on, you know, like ideas and stuff like that. So we are very clear on like what we need to be doing and asking each other if we need more help and stuff. And then I use my resources, like all my employees, like, you know, clock on, you can work for Metamorphosis, and she's using her people as well. And yeah, like it feels surreal, to be honest. Like it's a pretty wild thing. You know, another thing that I really like about it, you said there's not many people that do it, but whenever I've started something, like for instance, like the 6-figure business map, when I started that, there was nothing like it. And so we felt like we were writing the rule book and we were creating something, and we had full freedom. So now when someone does it, they can copy myself, but then 50 others, and they can kind of like go, oh yeah, let's, you know, use the same copy and the same pricing structure and, you know, do whatever. And then it was the same with the summit. It was the first time that I've seen anything like this online. We like launched that thing, and now like people will like create the same thing and the same price and the same structure. And that's cool, but I don't like repeating things. I like innovating things, right? So I don't like imitation. I like innovation. So right now I'm like looking around, like what is something that can be innovated? And when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, a course with Cara like this is such an innovation, because I can't go on YouTube and go like, how do I talk to my partner, like my business partner? You know, how can we create together? What are we supposed to do? What are our roles? Like, I don't know. But we're building that framework right now, and we're building like a rule book almost. And that's what I love the most. I'm like, man, we've got a book here and it's literally blank, and we're fucking writing it out right now. And what doesn't, like I just said, I got a $40,000 mistake. That's going to live with me forever. It's in the book. So other people won't make that mistake, you know? And it's like, wow, you know, so I love being in the space where I can't Google it or ask ChatGPT or look on YouTube. It's like, we literally have to fucking make this shit up. And that's cool. And in 5 years time, 3 years time, I said to Cara as well, like literally I was like, Cara, for full transparency, the life of this course will be 3 years before it's rinsed and repeated by everybody. But you're going to have 3 years, because we're always sort of just in front by about 3 years on everything.
Yeah.
So I've worked out the sweet point. And I'm like, we got 3 years lifespan of this business. And then after that, it's gone. It's for the people, and they can do whatever they want, you know?
So freaking sick, man. I love it. I love it.
It's exciting.
Oh, it fills me up, dude. Fills me up seeing somebody else on like the frontier.
Well, another thing I think with partnerships is like expectations are going to be met. You got to know each other's personalities, but also what I just said there is like exit plan. You know, so I said, Cara, was like 3 years, like if we can go hard on it. And she was like, I can dedicate 3 years to it. I was like, good, because after 3 years, we can put it on autopilot. People can just buy it off our website, but it can be like cheaper and like it can just run itself. But until then, it needs to be proactive income where we're showing up and we're like doing things for it, and publicity stunts and marketing and all that kind of stuff. We need to go hard for 3 years. You know, so it's sort of like, if you've got that, then it's not disappointing for someone when it's like, well, time's up. And also it gives you a good timeline of like, we're not hustling forever. Like, here's the end point, and let's make that happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Did you draw up a contract that said like, hey, at any point, if we feel like the other person isn't putting in their effort, like we get to take all ownership, or how does that work?
Yeah, exactly. There is a contract, and it literally just says a few things. Like, I actually like protected her a lot. One thing is I'm upfronting all the investment. But when we first launch, so it's like a loan, and then I get that investment back first before we both get paid, right? But I said to her in the contract is, if we don't actually make it and it doesn't launch or it fails, she doesn't owe me any money. So she's fully protected, as in like, you know, this is all risk on me sort of thing. Then the other thing was like, if one of us decide not to want to run it, the other person can run it and continue to use that person's name. You know, so it's like, if I say like, hey, Cara, I'm like over it over 12 months time. She's like, oh no, that's sweet. And she can continue to run it, and she can continue to promote this giant Cara's course sort of thing. Okay.
Super cool.
Yeah, little things like that. Like, I think the contract's super basic, to be honest. And Cara's parents are lawyers, so I should probably be pretty careful, but you know. But it's honestly, like, I think sometimes you just have partnerships and you just know. Like, I think Cara's a very fair person, and I've seen that through the proof of all the things she's done, the divorce she went through, and everything else. And I think like you know the characters that you're sort of going into business with, and I know she knows the same about me as well. So yeah, I think, hey, touch wood, man. I hope this is going to be a great partnership.
Yeah, heck yeah. I mean, that's the best thing, right? It's like when you can see their character and just know them personally. It's like, yeah, I'm going to jump all over that. You're taking a risk. Absolutely. At the end of the day, whether you have a contract in place or not, it's like.
Exactly. It really makes no difference.
Man.
It's a big, like if I was like writing a contract going like, I fucking better protect myself here. I would be actually thinking like, I probably shouldn't be going into this.
You shouldn't be doing it at all.
You know?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
It's like,
and she was exactly the same. Cause I was like, hey, what do you want in this contract? She's like, whatever, man. Like whatever makes you feel comfortable. I'm like, okay, sweet. So I like wrote it out, sent it over. Yeah. And she's like, sweet.
On a sticky note.
Signed it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like sweet. As long as we got something in writing, like we were all good, you know?
So epic.
And it's like little things too. It's like who owns like a lot of the stuff's on my website. So like I'll write to her saying like in the contract that like even though it's on my website, you own 50% of like the intellectual property and all that kind of stuff. And everything that you teach is still all your stuff. I don't own that. I don't own the rights to it. Like all that kind of stuff. And I think this is really important. And in fact, not enough educators do this. I actually never see educators do this. Like I do it. If I'm talking at a workshop or a conference, I'll send a contract saying like I own all the rights to my own material that you can't like sell it on or use it as your own stuff or like whatever it is. And I think that's just really important. Like it's your own intellectual property that you're not selling that. You're selling your time to be there to teach that stuff, not selling your intellectual property. And there are some like I think I got asked to talk at a conference once and they were trying to get me to sign off the rights to everything that I was saying, like my intellectual property to them. And everyone signed it. And I was like, man, I'm not signing this. Like, I'm not going to this. Like, because have a look what the contract says. And they're like, oh shit. You know, it's just like, sometimes you just got to be fully aware of what's happening.
Yeah. So basically they could just take whatever you said at that workshop and then sell it on their own.
Yeah.
As education.
Yeah, exactly. They could make a course out of it if they wanted to. They own the rights to it, you know?
Yeah.
I know. And so there's a lot of things that happen like that. So you do have to keep your wits about you and look around. And I actually honestly think like if you are an educator and you want to speak anywhere, like if you're talking at my photography conference, Wedding Photography Summit, and I send you a contract, but you should be sending me one as well, you know, like to outline your own stuff. And I think every educator should have their own contract that says like, hey, this is what I expect. Because I do. Like if someone asks me, I'm like, I'm sending you my contract, man. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not how it works. You sign mine. Yeah, but you also got to sign mine. Like, you know, it's a partnership.
So cool, dude. I mean, I could talk to you all day long, but I want to keep the podcast so people actually listen and hear everything that you have to say. Where do people find out about the courses? I know we're going to link it below, but just to hear it from the man himself.
Yeah. So, hey, if you want to, I got a podcast called Make Your Break. If you want to come over there and listen to my Australian voice in your ears, absolutely. I'm pretty passionate about things, so you're going to hear
Which you absolutely should, just because everything on there is absolute gold, man. I listen to it religiously and love everything you say. Yeah. It's amazing.
Thanks, man. And then otherwise, like you can find me on Instagram, which is just at jailong.co. So at jailong.co. And on there, you're going to see links to like Metamorphosis and Course Launcher and all that stuff. So I'd love to see you over there. And of course, anyone can send me a DM. I get back to every single person. So you just let me know how this podcast sounded to you and you'll hear from me. So yeah.
So amazing, man. Thank you so much again for hopping on here, taking some time.
Cheers, man.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I hope it was really inspiring to kind of see behind the curtain of what a 7-figure business looks like. It's just so inspiring to kind of hear Jai's story about how he started from very little and has been able to build the business to where it is today. I hope you're able to walk away with some nuggets on how to increase and build your business as well. Again, if you are not a part of Second Society, we would love to have you. Head over to secondsociety.io and join the growing community of wedding professionals, not only wedding photographers and videographers, but companies as well. I hope you guys have an incredible week, and I will see you on the next episode.